Hello, welcome to ThePrint. I am Amana Begam Ansari. I'm a writer, columnist, and I used to work as a research analyst. So this week I have covered the topic of war between US, Israel, and Iran. And war between the US and Israel and Iran is not just an international affair, according to me, which is unfolding for far from home. It crosses border not through soldiers but through ideas, emotions, and narratives, which is shaping conversation and political imagination in societies far removed from the battlefield. Much has already been written about how section of the Indian right wings support Israel, often linked to their own views on Islam. I have also written earlier that Indian Shia Muslims have the right to mourn Ayatollah Khomeini peacefully, even if he remains a deeply controversial figure. I have also criticized the Indian right wing for villainizing the entire community. But what we rarely examine with the same honesty is the other side, that why section of Indian Muslims, including some intellectual voices, express support for Iran. What shapes that response? Is it purely religious solidarity, political positioning, or something deeper tied to identity and a sense of global belongings? Many Muslim communities, Shia and Sunni alike, often respond through a religious lens. And to be honest, that lens slips into a tribal thinking shaped by ideas like Ummah or by the messaging of religious leaders. In the case of Iran, especially among Shia Muslim, there is a layer of sympathy rooted in history. Khamenei is not just seen as a political figure, but as a someone who challenged Western dominance, who turned Shia identity from something passive into something political assertive. You can see this playing out in a different ways. In India, Shia communities have largely expressed themselves through a peaceful mourning and protest. In Pakistan, however, similar sentiment have spilled into more intense and sometimes violent demonstration, with the accusation against their own Pakistani state being complicit with the US. I can understand these emotions. They are shaped by religious identity and tribalism. But what unsettled me is that even intellectual voices struggle to move beyond the same tribal framework. You would expect a more layered, more balanced view, but often the argument remains confined within identity. I have heard argument like Iran has been a friend to India and therefore India should stand with Iran. But what about Israel? Israel too has supported India at critical moments, especially in defense, intelligence, and technology. If foreign policy is reduced to picking sides based on selective memory or identity, then stop being analysis and start becoming alignment. And that perhaps is the line many Indian Muslim intellectuals are still struggling to cross. The other argument I consistently hear is about human rights violation by Israel, and that is fair concern. Civilian suffering, loss of life, and questions of accountability deserve to be raised, no matter who is responsible. But then a question naturally follows: where are the same voices when it comes to human rights violations carried out by the Iranian regime under Khamenei? I am not trying to compare tragedies or rank suffering. That is not the point. But celebrating or romanticizing one authoritarian figure while condemning another actor for similar or different form of violence is not what one expects from intellectuals or those who claims to be taking a liberal position. Human rights are a lens that cannot be applied selectively. The one argument I truly find myself agreeing with is a simpler one, that war is not something to cheer for. It comes at a too high a cost, and it is still at its core aggression. Whatever language we use around it, strategy, security, prevention, the reality remains the same. At the same time, using human right violation in Iran as a justification for military strike opens a dangerous door, because if that becomes the logic, then any state can claim the right to attack another by pointing to its internal failures. Where does that end? What I keep hearing in interviews and speeches by some prominent Indian Muslim voices is reference to pan Islamism, to the idea of a unified Ummah, and that is where they expose themselves. This framing has a very little to do with humanity and much more to do with identity. Ironically, if you look at the current geopolitical reality, a united Ummah does not even hold in practice. Muslim majority countries themselves are divided by interest, alliances, and politics. Yet the emotional appeal of the idea continue to shape reaction of these intellectuals. This is not just about a war far away. It also shows how we think and what shapes our moral compass. It is easy to take sides, to align with identities, to see the world through us versus them. It feels natural, even comforting, but that is also when we lose something very important. When intellectual voices who are supposed to rise above immediate emotions, begin to echo the same tribal lines, the space for honest thinking sinks. If our position on war, human rights, and justice change depending on who is involved, then they are not really principles. India, with all its diversity, has always had the opportunity to think beyond these narrow identities, to look at global events not through religious solidarity or political convenience, but through a more grounded human lens, and that should continue.